If you bought a house here in Kerrville, Texas within the last 2 years, you might be in a bit of a predicament and could possibly even have to bring a check to the closing table. The Kerrville, Texas housing prices are down once again, along with the number of closed sales and active listings is going through the roof. In today's video, I'll be giving you the eyebrow raising info, explain what's happening here in our local market, but also talk about mortgage rates, inflation, and more. If you guys are new to the channel, I just want to thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, but also hit that little bell so you can get notified anytime I put out videos just like this one. First off, sellers before you sell and buyers before you buy, make sure you watch this video all the way through because we are doing a double take on what's happening with our market numbers. So first up, let's talk about the median sales price. So here in Kerrville, the median sales price for the first quarter of 2024 was sitting right at $325,000, which is a 7.3% decrease year over year, the same time frame as last year. And what's crazy about that median sales price, we haven't seen it that low in well over a year. And you won't believe this, during the peak of the market, the median sales price was sitting at $372,000, which was the third quarter of 2022. So if you bought a house during that time frame, you might want to close your ears because we are down $47,000 from that peak moment in the market. And then on top of all that, the amount of sold houses is down 14.1%. So does that mean that people aren't buying in Kerrville anymore? Well, no, not necessarily.
No, God, please, no, no!
It's just that we aren't having the huge flocks of people move to the general Texas Hill Country area like we did during the pandemic. And that's also back when the interest rates were sitting in the low 2s. Now, fast forward to today, the mortgage rates, which is absolutely crucial for both buyers and sellers to keep an eye on, have seen a huge increase since the pandemic and the height of the market, which of course has been influenced by broader economic factors. Today, the rates are hovering right around 7.125% for a 30-year fixed rate conventional mortgage. Now, obviously, when rates are that high, that really does affect the buyer's affordability and is one of the main reasons why we're seeing a whole lot less sales today than we did back when the pandemic rates were in the 2s, 3s, and 4s. Now, in terms of the new construction market, which has really helped drive the amount of sales as of lately here in Kerrville, has seen a bit of a boom, I guess you could say. But more specifically in the new affordable Lennar housing neighborhood called Ridgeland. And so far year to date, there are 12 closed and pending houses within Ridgeland alone, which is quite impressive considering we've only had 61 houses sell in the entire town since the start of the year. And believe it or not, we actually seen a very similar Lennar development in Fredericksburg, but more on that in a later video. And then for resale homes, you'll notice that the market is a bit more competitive for you sellers, considering the amount of inventory houses for sale that we have. And as a seller in this market, you might find that you'll have to be more flexible and strategic with pricing your home, or maybe even consider some upgrades to help your house stand out in this crowded market. And then speaking of things that affect both buyers and sellers, let's talk about this inflation. As of March of this year, the inflation rate is sitting at about 3.5%. Now, while that is a dip from the highs we saw back in 2022, it's still above the comfy 2% that the Federal Reserve aims for. And what does this actually mean for us? Well, everything from the cost of building materials for that new home that you want to what you spend at the grocery store all see a hike. And then if you're planning on retiring soon, this kind of inflation means your dollar won't stretch as far as you'd hope by the time you hang up your hat. And on the housing front, this could mean higher costs for sellers and less purchasing power for buyers, which is something to keep in mind whether you're talking about listing or buying a home. Now shifting gears to what this means for interest rates. Generally, when inflation's up, interest rates follow suit to keep things balanced. And obviously this impacts the mortgage rates too. So whether you're buying or selling, keeping an eye on these trends is key as they'll influence your decisions and, well, potentially your wallet. Now let's go ahead and talk about potential rate cuts, which will be a game changer for our market. So all this chatter around the financial circle suggests that we might see the Federal Reserve cut rates sometime between June and September, depending on how the economic data pans out. And of course, this move would aim to stimulate the market if the economy doesn't pick up. While there's no guarantee and predicting the Federal Reserve actions can be very tricky, these anticipated rate cuts could make mortgages more affordable and stimulate more buying in the housing market. So if you are thinking about buying or even selling for that matter, this is something to keep an eye on as we move through the year. And what does this mean for you as a home seller? Well, these rate cuts will really spice things up. If these rates do drop, you can expect a whole lot more buyers jumping into the market thanks to the lower cost of borrowing money. This surge in buyer interest could not only boost your home selling price, but also speed up the sale process. However, keep in mind that if rate cuts are happening due to other larger economic woes, it could make some buyers a little more cautious. Overall though, I do think that the rate cuts will mean more eyeballs and offers on your property, making it a really good time to sell. And all this talk about rates, people who are buying property with cash don't even care what the rates are. The only reason cash buyers are really paying attention to the rates is if they are higher and buyer demand is low, they can potentially get into some of these properties for a really good price, considering there really isn't much competition out there. Recent stats actually show that cash transactions made up for 36.6% of single family and condo sales in the last quarter of 2023 throughout the US. And of course, this indicates despite the ups and downs of the mortgage landscape, a significant amount of deals are still being closed without financing, keeping that cash buying segment robust in the real estate market. Okay, that's enough for me. I want to hear from you guys. Did you buy a house within the last 2 years only to have to turn around and sell it right away? What did that end up looking like for you? Or were you able to get into the market early enough where this really did not become an issue for you? And if you did neither of those, what are your plans moving forward in this changing market? If you're thinking about buying in 3 days or 3 years, I want to hear from you. All my contact information is above, but also down in the description. And make sure you watch this next video. I think you're really gonna like it. We'll see you in the next video.